Earth, circa 2060. A young girl named Masako grew up alone on the dangerous streets of London. She quickly learned how to protect herself, and became very good at killing people from a young age. By the age of 16, Masako joined the mercenary corps, and soon found herself shipped off-world on multiple tours of the solar system. It didn't take Masako long to gain the respect of her soldiers and soon took command of the entire mercenary regiment, promoting herself to colonel. After signing a contract with the infamous Ultor Corporation, Masako and the mercenary corps spent the next 15 years doing anything the evil company requested. From riot control, raids, assassinations and more. Anything Ultor wanted, Masako would make it happen. After being shipped off to Mars by the Ultor Corporation, Masako and her men were given an unused facility, in an abandoned part of the mining colony, to use as a base whilst the corporation kept them in reserve. There had been talks of a possible uprising from the miners, and the company weren't taking any chances. It didn't take Masako long to know that the whole place was going to hell. She knew that Capek was trouble the minute she had laid eyes on the freaky egomaniac. But he was Ultor's golden boy, and no one listened to her. She knew the complex was going to explode and she'd have to put the pieces back together. She was going to make sure that Capek was caught in the blast. Her battalion had been in tough spots before, and she knew they could handle this one. If things went bad, Ultor's security was going to get hit first. Masako would let the miners work over the security guards while her and her men dug in. The guards would buy her regiment enough time to bunker down around the base's vital points. Once the miners crashed against them and staggered back to lick their wounds, they would counterattack in strength. Masako believed they would have them crushed in a few days, and all evidence of Ultor's wrongdoings would be gone. Masako was going to make sure that Capek would die, one way or another. She'd had enough of the disrespect. Capek wouldn't leave her alone, calling and storming into her quarters, demanding that she protected his work, and that he would not tolerate interruptions to his research. He demanded that she should earn her pay. Masako thought it served him right. If she let the miners rip through his labs and trash everything he'd worked on, then she could shoot the half-cyborg bastard and blame the miners for it. They would all be dead soon anyway. This would be her last contract with the company. She couldn't take what passed for strategic thinking at Ultor anymore. It wasn't like the old days. 10 or 15 years ago, when Ultor called them in, it was to kill everything that moved. No police action, no sit and wait, no watching miners flip them off. Even 5 years ago, if someone had done that to a merc, they would have killed them, and everyone who looked vaguely like them. This job was as low as she would go. Ultor would have to get someone else to lead the battalion. Masako planned to go back to Earth when the dust settled on Mars. London would be her first stop. Not to stay, but for payback. She hadn't been back since joining the mercenary corps at 16, but she was ready now. She thought the old street scum would have forgotten about her, but they would remember before they died. When she was done in London, she planned to find another city to melt into. The streets could have her back, but on her terms this time. Earth was about the only place in the solar system that Masako hadn't killed for Ultor. 15 years of eliminating people for no clear purpose had burned her out. Rebellions, strikes, sick-outs, protests, it didn't matter. If Ultor said they had to die, that was good enough for her. No more. Her cord pulled as tight as it could go. Another tug and she was going to snap. When Ultor called her to Mars, she thought the execs had panicked. It didn't take her long to know why. It was getting ugly down there. There was a tide rising that could sweep Ultor right off of the planet. The security guards had held it back so far, but they wouldn't last. Masako knew that the miners were tough. With the right leadership, they would flatten the guards. But she knew they didn't stand a chance against her mercs. Masako still didn't know what Capek had been doing, but she knew he was responsible for all the missing miners. She didn't know if the miners had figured it out yet, but she was going to get it out of him before she killed him. Masako thought he was the most arrogant son of a bitch that she had ever let live. He regularly told her that she had no need to know what was going on. Her only job was to protect his pencil-necked eggheads from the mobs when they came around. Masako didn't believe that staying with the chain of command worked either. Deputy Administrator Griffin was supposed to be Ultor's direct link to her. But he was scared about something, more scared than she'd ever seen anyone outside a firefight. She didn't know if it was Capek, the miners, or the whole damn mess, but he was a basket case. Every time Masako spoke to Griffin about Capek, he shriveled up like she had dumped a bucket of ice down his shorts. He wouldn't cross Capek and he wouldn't pass her complaints to the admin. When things finally blew up, Masako wouldn't waste her troops protecting their butts. She wasn't going to lose a single soldier to save some egghead or admin puffball. They were going to hunker down and dig in. When they would finally come out, everyone who wasn't a merc was going to die. They were getting off that rock alive, even if no one else did.